Hi class, my name is Morgan and today we will be exploring Legally Blonde and the communication tactics used throughout the movie. Awesome. To kick us off, Legally Blonde is an incredible movie. If you haven't seen it, I highly recommend. But today specifically we'll be exploring the classroom scene where Elle is essentially having a debate with a fellow classmate, Warner Huntington III. We will explore why that's significant, but they are in a class of Professor Callahan and exploring a case where a sperm donor would like to claim parental rights over the child. So Legally Blonde has lots of great communication concepts throughout the film. Really in this scene specifically, we're exploring perception dynamics, power dynamics, relational dynamics, really understanding what exactly it is that drives someone to make a judgment or make a decision based on a relationship that they have pre-existing. There also explores gender and different, expectations put on women, and specifically bubbly women or people in a more male-dominated space. So to add context to the scene, as I stated prior, we are in Professor Callahan's class at Harvard Law, and a fellow classmate is Warner Huntington III. Well, if you don't already know, Elle followed Warner Huntington III to Harvard to pursue a law degree because he actually is her ex-boyfriend and he broke up with her to date someone a little more serious. We'll touch on that a little later, but just know that Elle has a pre-existing relationship with Warner. In this scene, we see the classroom set the tone. They're a captive audience, so they are required to be there, but they are a captive audience as they are fully engaged in the discussion happening in the classroom. There is pressure, there is hierarchy, and there are some communication challenges specifically that we see that Elle faces due to the scrutiny given to her by her classmates. She comes in, she's bubbly, she wears pink, she has a cute laptop that no one else has, and she is immediately judged because of that. And so when you see her raise her hand later on in this conversation, you do hear snickers throughout the classroom because people don't expect her to raise her hand and have anything worthwhile to say. She ultimately, spoiler alert, triumphs and wins the case in the class, and she does so using some specific communication techniques. All right, so first we see reasoning by analogy. This I really see Warner doing. So Warner's initial argument is that the sperm donor should have claim to the child because in a prior case, that sperm donor had claim to a child when that was his only donation. In this specific case that we're exploring, it is a habitual donor. And so for that reason, Warner sees that this donor should be granted parental rights and visitation because of that prior ruling when that doesn't really apply. We see while he's presenting the argument, Vivian Kensington giving him some back channel cues, really looking at him, giving him that eye contact, giving him that affirmation so that he knows that she's engaged in what he's got to say, and also asserting her dominance over Elle. We do see some strategic communication here, and I think that's really coming from Vivian, even though she doesn't say anything. So we talked about the dynamics a little bit. There's definitely a lot of importance on the relational context between the people in this scene, the pre-existing relationship between Elle and Warner, the current relationship between Vivian and Elle, and the budding, what you could call a relationship between Elle and Professor Callahan. After she wins her case, he asks her to stay after class and uses that power that he has to entice her to apply for his internship. We do see Elle a victim of the primacy effect. She is judged based on that first initial impression that she gives off. And then we also see her challenge those assumptions through her arguments and things such as that. So as I mentioned earlier, Warner broke up with Elle to date someone more serious. We'll see Vivian here. she is the person that's more serious in question, and she is the individual, giving those cues, those nonverbal cues to Warner as he speaks. So through this argument, we see Elle active listening. She active listens and really critically thinks through the argument that's being presented to think of her rebuttal. She is detecting logical fallacies. She is looking through his argument to find those flaws that she's able to call out in her rebuttal. And in her rebuttal, you'll hear her say that it is habitual. So in this case, he does not have any claims. He does not have any claims to any parental rights due to the fact that he has not contacted any other sperm emissions throughout his life. And she goes on to her final and closing point to say that any sperm emission where the sperm is not clearly seeking an egg could be called reckless abandonment. Now, not only is that her specific purpose, but she is utilizing legal jargon here as well. As we know, reckless abandonment in a law context is where someone is intentionally abandoning a responsibility that they may have. So in many cases, it could be a child, a spouse. In this case, it is the child. So then we're turning that narrative, we're flipping it on that donor. And, she is exercising that legal jargon that she's been learning in the classes, despite what her classmates might think. At the end of the scene, we see Professor Callahan exercise that legitimate power that he does have as the professor and as the decider of the interns for each semester, asking Elle to stay after class, asking for a resume, and telling her she should apply for the internship. In the scene, it seems just fine, but as we'll see later in the movie, that is him abusing that power that he does have. I love this movie, and I really enjoyed getting to make this project. Thank you.